This is Abe Pretenser from Awards Watch, and I'm so thrilled to be speaking with Samantha Hanratty about her role on Yellowjackets. How are you, Samantha?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good, good. Tell me if you remember how you first heard about this show.
I got sent the audition for Natalie. So that was the first time that I heard about the show. So I definitely was reading the script and everything in like a very different lens than what I ended up doing. And so, yeah, pretty much everybody I knew was auditioning for this show. It was kind of like the talk of the town at the moment for, women that were in their early 20s were just everybody was auditioning for these 16-year-olds and 16-year-olds too, but it was a lot of us in our 20s were like, this is our moment. So yeah.
And so were you interested in Natalie, or someone suggested to you that that was the right role for you?
That was just the role that was given to me. And I definitely found Natalie extremely interesting and somebody that would have been very fun to play. But I feel like the second that you see Sophie in that character, like it just is magic. And so yeah, they definitely knew what they were doing when they hired her, and then also were like, hey, Sammy, what about Misty? And then I was like, Misty, like, yeah, let's do it, let's try it out. And yeah, been magical ever since.
So Misty is a very interesting character, both in
Yes.
your portrayal and then the older version of her. Is there anything that you can relate to about her?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I suffer from anxiety, and especially like social anxiety. I really want people to like me, and sometimes it really gets in my own head, in my own way. I find that no matter how good like a dinner can go with friends or hanging out with people, I always come home and I'm like, do they hate me? And I know it's not them, it's fully just my own anxieties, and yeah, just wanting to be liked by people. And I think that comes from also a very insecure place in myself, that I fully relate to with Misty. I think she just wants to be liked so badly, and I can definitely relate to that. I definitely think she needs therapy, and medication would be amazing for her. But
So looking at you now, your hair is straight. It's very neat. Obviously on the show, that's not the case. You also have those very, very large glasses. So what is the process of, becoming her physically like?
Yeah, I feel like that's like a huge part of Misty. I come to set as Samantha, and as soon as they put me in that wig cap and I get my wig on, and the biggest thing for me transformation wise is the brown eye contacts. I know like it doesn't seem like the biggest detail, but it really is. Like it freaks people out on set when I'm in my Misty gear and I don't have my contacts in. Like I literally, like our director Jamie Travis for episode 2, like literally could not look at me if I had my blue eyes. He was like, no, it's not right, we need Misty here. I'm like, I can see better without them right now. But yeah, so I think that it's all the little details that brings her to life.
A survival thriller is, I don't know if fun is the right word, but it's definitely engaging to watch. Is it fun to shoot, or is it sort of miserable because the conditions that you're, in are supposed to not be so glamorous?
Yeah, I think it's a mix between the both. There are days that it gets to be a lot, especially during the heat wave last year was really difficult. And Misty wears a lot of clothing. She wears her sweatshirts and her big pants and whatnot. And so yeah, there are definitely days that were harder than others. But I think being such a fan of the show, like I get so excited about whenever we're about to film a new scene, or it's really in the beginning we were doing a lot of these big ensemble pieces that were would take up days and days to film just this one scene of all of us together. So it was always really nice to do the intimate scenes like between me and Steven, who plays Ben. Like it was always just a real treat to be able to have these like one-on-one scenes that were a little crazy and a little wild. But it always just made me that much more excited to like see what we're going to do next. And I feel like each episode I got to figure out who Misty is a little bit more.
Well, so as far as the whole show goes in the general plot, do you have a sense of what's going on, or is everybody working on the show sort of as in the dark as viewers?
Uh, Both. There are some things that I'm like, oh, okay, like I get where they're going with this or that, but for the most part, we are pretty much just as much in the dark. I still have not seen any of the scripts for season 2. I am anxiously waiting to see what's coming. I want to get them so badly. I'm like, what am I doing this season? I want to know. But yeah, we've been given little tiny tidbits, but like nothing that I don't know anything for sure. I don't know anything that's like concrete. So I'm excited to figure out what the heck's going on.
Does that make it more challenging that you don't really know the full picture, or you just sort of live in the moment with it?
I like to know what's happening. I'm a puzzle solver, like I'm that girl that I love going to escape rooms, but I'm the one who's like constantly raising my hand being like, okay, what's the next thing? Like where's the clue? Like I need to, like I'm like, I like figuring things out, but I also like am a little impatient. So I'm like, let's go. But there is something nice about being forced to be patient and enjoying it each episode at a time, because it just leaves you wanting more. And I feel exactly how our audience feels. I'm constantly like, okay, but what the heck just happened and what's happening next?
Right. So if you were in the situation in real life, you'd be asking a lot of questions, trying a lot of things, not necessarily getting anywhere, but at least doing something
at least
productive.
Trying. Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's funny. And so do you have any interaction with the adult, storylines?
I haven't yet. I know some of our cast has, like Sophie Thatcher has had, I think, like a scene or two with Juliet in season 1, and same with Sophie Nélisse and Ella. And so I'm just, I'm hoping that I get at least one part where Misty is like, I don't know, looking at her past self. I have no idea. But it is always so exciting whenever we're like going to get COVID tested and we see like the adults, because we're like, hey, like we never get to see them, And for me, it was just like season 1 was just exciting because every single time I saw Christina, she was just more and more pregnant. So I was just like, you're growing a human. Like, this is so exciting. So yeah.
Did you grow up watching Christina in movies and TV?
Oh, totally. Like I literally grew up watching this movie called Gold Diggers my like whole life. And it was actually such like an impactful film that we have a saying in my family that's from the film called "Be strong like Molly." And I grew up sick a lot. And I was like in and out of hospital and urgent care and everything. And my mom, every time I was like scared of a shot or anything, she would just be like, be strong like Molly. And so the fact that like now I'm working with Christina, who is like the star of that film, is pretty wild.
Yeah. Do you watch her performance at all to get more of a clue to who Misty is?
There was one day that I was going to set to watch, and I was so excited. And then I forget what happened. I think like, I don't know if I had like an emergency at my apartment or what, but I ended up having to leave before I ever got to see her do anything. So we both have not seen each other on set. But we get to see each other during like the table reads and whatnot. But yeah, I never got to see her like fully act it out and be Misty. So watching this show is always really fun because I'm watching it just like the viewers.
Well, speaking of the viewers, is there anything, like any scenes that you shot that you feel like were particularly impressive in that like the filming conditions were nothing like what we see in the finished product?
Oh, that's a really good question. I feel like for us, so much of it was as like real as it gets, pretty much, I'm trying to think. I think that people don't realize how gross and sticky the fake blood is on set. It's so, it's like, when you're a kid and you like have like I don't know, like a lollipop or like taffy or something, and it's like too hot in the car, so it's kind of melted and it like gets on you and you're just like, or like gum, that's kind of what it's like. And so anytime that you see any of us with like blood all over our face, it is just the most uncomfortable feeling. Like, and I just feel so bad because Liv, who plays Van, they are incredible and amazing, but they, I mean, were covered, and they like, I mean, with the prosthetics and the contact, like I don't think that watching it at home, like I know people are like, ooh, you know, but like the amount of things that go into making that is really wild, and kudos to them, because it was really, I mean, I know it was really, really difficult.
Wow. I was looking back at your resume and I noticed two roles that I had seen you in. I didn't realize because it's been a long time. And one of them was on
Okay.
Shameless
Oh
as Cassidy. And as soon as I saw something, I was like, oh, I remember her. She was nuts.
yeah. Yes.
But I wonder, I think Cassidy and Misty are sort of similar in some ways because they like get very attached and they only see the world sort of through their lens.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. Some people would say it's a very selfish lens. And I think that, yeah, there's something that's lacking where it's like the empathy for others is just not really there. But I definitely think, you know, because I've totally been told like, you're the crazy girl, you're the crazy girl. And I'm like, it's my job to figure out why they do what they do, you know? And so when I think of Cassidy and I think of Misty, to me, they're two completely different people, because you know the psychology behind why they do what they do is so different. But of course we just see nutty and nuttier, you know what I mean, like just but no, it's fun to play the person that's kind of the most wild out of the group, you know, because I get to really figure out why they push the limits that they do. And for Cassidy, like she was obsessed with Carl the way that Misty is obsessed with these girls, and both of them, their objective is to get love and attention, you know. But yeah, just goes about it completely differently. And I wonder if that has to do with a lot of like Cassidy growing up wealthy, you know, because I feel like for her, she's just been given so much her whole life. But anyway, sorry, I could just talk about their psychology forever. But yeah, at the end of the day, both nutty characters, both Showtime characters. So I'm like, Showtime just likes to see me be wild.
There you go. And the other role is similar in a different way in that you're playing the younger version of somebody on Pushing Daisies.
Amazing. Yes.
I love. That was so long. I mean, that was 15 years ago at this point, I think, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I wish that show had gone on for a lot longer. What is it like to be part of it at that young age?
Maybe, you know, maybe someday something will happen. I hope so. I am obsessed with that show. I love that show. Brian Fuller's still a really good friend of mine. If anything, we're actually better friends because I was so young, you know, when I was filming it. But we've reconnected, and I just think he's one of the most lovely people ever. And Pushing Daisies is one of those shows that like I will forever hold so dear to my heart. I knew how special it was as a kid, but like as I get older, I just realized how big of an impression it had on me. And just getting treated so kindly by the cast was a huge impression, because you know it showed me that that's how I want to be. And I just, God, I love them and I love that show. And every time I think about like Warner Brothers and growing up, like I just remember, you know, just how incredible it was. Like just even seeing the Pie Maker shot, I would get so excited. Like I felt like I was just as big of a fan as everybody else, you know? So I'm glad that you enjoyed it too, because it really was such a special show.
It's also nice to come back to it so many years later and just think about it again. You know, watching Lee Pace and Bodies, you know.
Yes. Which, by the way, Lee is like the nicest person, was so freaking nice to me. And I just love that guy. I would love to like go and see him and hug him and be like, hey, thanks for being so nice to me as a kid. So hopefully I'll get that opportunity soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything else coming up besides season 2 of Yellowjackets?
Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I can't really say too much. Yeah, I've got something fun a little bit in the projects that I'm excited about. But yeah, I'll share more about that next time we talk.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I look forward to it.
Of course. Thank you.